Awesome. Okay, so Samir, where are you today? Where are you based out of?
So
So,
we are based
yeah.
out of Dubai only. We
Okay,
basically our office is in DIC,
okay,
and
nice.
yeah. So we've been here in the region for a long time, as in Cleartrip as a business, right? So I've been part of this company for actually many years. We started our journey back in 2007, 2008, when we were just a startup. Then so since then I've been working with Cleartrip. I've kind of worked with them until about 2019,
Okay,
and then later on, end of 2019, pretty much like just before COVID, I went and joined another kind of a online travel company. We are kind of growing primarily both B2B as well as B2C businesses. Holiday Me, I don't know how long you were in the region, so you heard about this brand.
no,
So
not really.
yeah, so Holiday Me was pretty much very active until about COVID, and then after COVID, we had to kind of pivot into a B2B business. We kind of did that, and then yeah, after working for a couple of years, what we did was basically we did a management buyout of this company called Cleartooth Middle East business.
Okay.
It was acquired by Flipkart.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Okay.
yeah, it was acquired by Flipkart in 2021, but then they wanted to divest the Middle East business because they don't have a mandate to operate outside of India. And so I, along with some of the two of the existing kind of directors, we basically raised some capital, got an investor, and we kind of acquired this company.
Back again.
Just yeah, back again.
Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
Flipkart.
Okay, Samir. So I'll just like give you a bit of context again, right, before we start off this conversation. I also want to understand if you knew about Alan before, you joined the CFO community.
Yeah.
Did you have Okay, awesome. Okay, so I am Habiba and I had marketing at Alan. And
Hmm.
the reason why we decided to start off this series was to have a platform where we can bring together top finance leaders in the Middle East to discuss and share insights on the future of finance in the region. And that's exactly what I want to do here with you as well today. I just want to have a regular
Sure.
chat with you, get to know you, and get to know your perspective on different topics in finance, right? So, if you're ready,
Sure.
I'm ready
Sure.
to kick this off with you.
No, absolutely. Please go ahead. Happy
Awesome.
to yeah talk about finance. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's kick off with an introduction of you. You've already told me that you know what your journey with Cleartrip has been like. But if you could also give me a little bit of background about, how your journey started off in the finance function and then how it led to here.
Sure. Sure. So yeah, I think my journey kind of started. So I've more than almost, I would say, 25 years of experience since I kind of graduated from my MBA program. But I had kind of a long career in primarily marketing and sales function. Uh, I graduated in marketing, and then I pretty much kind of used to manage sales and distribution for consumer companies, goods companies, as well as um, uh, but then I always wanted to kind of be a part of startup ecosystem very early on itself. So I kind of started working with a very early stage education services, ed tech, kind of that time yeah, this is like uh, 15 years before ago, right? 17, 18 years ago, actually. So, and the ed tech as a term was not coined, it was called as e-learning at that point of time. So, and so that's what, so I kind of played multiple roles at that point of time. And then from 2008 onwards, my journey with finance actually started. And when I actually joined Cleartrip, I created the entire financial planning and analysis kind of function, corporate strategy, corporate development function, and played a very key role in the early stages of the growth of the organization. We basically, so fundraising was one area that I was to kind of manage. We raised a lot of capital that time from private equity as well as venture capital funds which were operating out of US in India. That period was very good for, you know, I mean, online travel has been always the arrowhead of e-commerce revolution in India specifically and the region.
Yeah.
So we were kind of leading that, and so I was we pretty much we were in the forefront of building that online ecosystem, fundraising with VCs and things like that. So that is something which I used to do a lot in the early 2009, 10, 11, that period, and obviously investing in the growth of the organization across, right? So I used to manage. That's how the journey started, as to kind of manage. I set up the entire BI ecosystem for the organization, which became the kind of backbone for the organization for many years. We also kind of focused on the whole data driven, or rather created the data driven ecosystem for driving the entire business, because again, our business was purely completely on 100% online, through technology. So very data focused, and very numbers focused company right from beginning, very highly optimized across various functions. So so the good thing about especially my role, and hence the finance role also, was that we were able to integrate finance specifically into the ecosystem of the organization, right? It was not a support function like which many organizations have.
Yeah.
Finance, it was a part of, so first of all, it was a part of a corporate strategy function, and I kind of was heading corporate strategy, finance. Later on, I went on to become the CFO as well, where we actually then combined both these functions together. Uh, so, so finance, from that perspective, the way the culture shaped up in the organization was that finance became a core part of strategy, core part of operations, and not just like a function delivering. So it had multiple layers. One obviously was the core accounting function, which is your standard, that's required. But also it had a lot of operational finance function, because again, being online company, post transaction, a lot of operations that happen. So that comes under finance.
Yeah.
But then that's maybe to some extent boring part, right?
Yeah.
But the exciting part was primarily the whole FP&A BI ecosystem that kind of was within the finance function in Cleartrip for many years, basically. That essentially helped, the CFO function to drive the strategy for the organization very closely, right?
So how would you say was that shift for you, for someone who, I'm not sure, because it's that way for people who are like graduating in, let's say, sales or marketing. They're like, okay, we're gonna pursue a career in sales or marketing. You went on to becoming a CFO, right?
Yeah,
So how did you find that major shift in the fields
sure,
for
sure.
yourself?
So, I mean, one was my education itself definitely helped me. I also did a master's kind of program in finance much later as well, just before I joined Cleartrip in Canada, which definitely helped me personally to kind of relearn the finance concepts and accounting and things like that, right? So then, you know, when I kind of started managing the finance function, it was a lot more easier for me to kind of apply all those concepts, whether it was fundraising, accounting, we and also kind of bring in a lot more non-traditional way of thinking in finance, right?
Yeah.
Whether it is building, taxation policies, or dealing with, data, technology within finance, right? So all of those things which were more non-conventional, I was able to kind of bring some of these things, right? And again, using again technology for the data analytics in the organization. So that is something very key for us, right? And that is something again helped me because of again my experience, as well as to some extent education and things like that. So I don't think the transition was was challenging at all. In fact, I enjoyed a lot, and you know, yeah, I think I enjoyed a lot. Uh, I was able to kind of create also, you can say, uh, sub functions within the umbrella of finance, right? So your core, obviously, accounting is there. Your core compliance, taxation, that's one vertical where you kind of manage obviously your day to day things. Um, and and obviously the core corporate strategy, which basically uh, essentially drives the integration of, you can say, operations and finance in that sense, right? So when you are basically building the budgets and building projections, right, obviously you take a top down approach, but then as a in the organization you help all your functions to build a bottom up approach
Yeah.
with regards to your business model, and then kind of marry that and then start executing.
Yeah.
So right, so it is not just kind of building these plans, but basically be part of that execution very very strongly, right? So then what happens is that the finance as a function just doesn't become that support function. It becomes actually a function which supports execution operations, right, and bridge that gap between execution and and strategy, right? Because see,
Yeah.
in general, strategy is basically a function which plans out things. Uh, okay, whether it's budget, whether it is projects and plans, but then the operation and business functions teams go and execute it, right? So there's always a huge gap, and between that the whole thing of knowing and doing kind of thing. So strategy function and finance function basically goes and bridges that. So
Yeah.
that has an so finance and strategy function has an opportunity to kind of provide real-time information, data analysis to the business leaders and operations teams to basically then understand what needs to be done, where are the gaps, right? Drive your day-to-day, reviews, monthly reviews, quarterly reviews, daily reviews, right? And then continuously basically push the organizations to achieve the milestones, bridge
That,
the gaps between the budgets, things like that, right? So there's a lot of so in my experience, and this is something I used to love, that finance was never a support function. It was a very core function, which is to drive the growth for the organization, right? And including things like setting up new businesses, setting up new geographies. That's how I actually started the Middle East business back in 2000. So we started our UAE office as early as 2012, end of 2011, when we, in fact, me and my colleague, we basically ran a experiment then and realized that we had a very strong demand from this market, even when we were just India focused organization.
yeah.
Okay. And we saw that 15-20% of the searches were coming from here on our India platform itself. There is so we actually, although I did a market study of multiple markets, Southeast Asia, Australia, Middle East, then we realized that Middle East has a lot more potential at that point of time. There was nobody. So we definitely took that right step, got a first mover advantage. We grew early on a lot. And then until to the extent that we took a call in 2015, 16 to kind of then make more investment, build a lot more local teams. So I actually personally, I gave up my CFO job and came here and started leading the business here and building the business for the Middle East. We did grow a lot. We did acquire a company in Saudi Arabia. By end of 2019, 50% of our revenues were coming from the Middle East region.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was pretty interesting for us, and it basically we achieved that direction what we had set out to do. Unfortunately, there were a lot of other issues that were going on with our shareholding and other things that separate. That led to obviously, I mean, COVID. Nobody had seen COVID, which had a big impact on travel companies. So unfortunately, we had to sell it to Flipkart. All those things happened. There some good things also came up from Flipkart. Flipkart basically bought the business. They invested in India. They unfortunately didn't invest in the Middle East. But now the good thing is that we have got the Middle East business back.
That. Yeah.
India also doing extremely well in India under Flipkart's leadership. So yeah, things have been kind of working out otherwise.
That's
Yeah,
really
yeah. But sorry, I kind of digressed a bit. But to your point, the transition was, I think, very very smooth. But that again is very individual. So I'm very numbers oriented, very data focused person. So and finance is all about that, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
You've mentioned numbers and data analytics, which brings me to my next question.
yeah.
With AI, tech, and digital transformation being the major focus areas for many organizations this year, what
Yeah.
role do you see these advancements playing in the future of finance?
So of course, I mean there are a lot of things going on, but if you look at what's going on in the early stages right now, which we have already experiencing, and I, personally, me and my team, so I think the first level of AI. Uh, so one, obviously, we've been using a lot of automation in finance, right? Whether it is reconciliation, because we 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 generally handle a lot of data, thousands of transactions on a daily basis, thousands of data points across various layers. So automation has always been key. So and we've been doing a lot that on various aspects. We also tried, and maybe we also use a lot of third party
Software.
softwares, right?
Yeah.
Not just the core accounting, but obviously on the BI, there are multiple BI tools that we use for data analytics, right? And the web analysis and things like that, right? So which basically means that we've been using tech a lot in our day-to-day functions, right? Now, first thing is that a lot of these tools themselves are bringing AI functionality into
Yeah.
into their offerings. So that already started helping us, right? So whether so in the BI tool that we used already, they have built functionalities which allows us to get more real time information or real time trends, right? Which, let's say for example, I would miss out otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, if if my business on certain days kind of starts fluctuating, then we know uh,
What?
so otherwise obviously we had to go and do the research on a weekly basis and daily basis and then see. Now there are alerts, there are no trends that are coming up. So first in my mind, the AI solutions which are coming about are anyway helping us to do our job much better faster,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I already use tools for all my you can say contracts and legal documentation. That has actually helped me personally reduce my time to literally by 70-80%.
Yeah.
So for example, last week only I was basically reviewing certain vendor contracts. It's just very easy now with AI tools to kind of do that,
Yeah.
right? I was reviewing some investor agreements. If I don't understand particular clauses, I just use AI to help
To
me
summarize
understand
it.
things, right? Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these things are happening, and so that's on the AI side. On we use a very strong counting software called the Microsoft Dynamics. Now they
Yeah.
also have started introducing very it's things still are very very nascent in my mind, right? But they have started kind of you know automating our, let's say for example, the accounts payables receivables functions, right? Automatically the GL gets created at the end of the day. So how that's helping is that my team that would probably require 5 days to close the month, now they can probably save a day, right?
Yeah.
Because then they have a lot more analysis done much faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
It's too early to say that okay we will have to reduce people or something like that, right? But I think it's just that it's making people more efficient,
Yeah. Definitely.
and yeah, so I think that's definitely there. And yeah, I mean those are the things in my mind which right now AI is. Now obviously future we all know could
Yeah.
be a lot better and there could be a lot more applications that will come up, but it'll take some time. I mean, I'm not building anything on from that perspective right now.
And finance also is a function that would require that human insight at the end of the day. It's too big to
Correct.
just function without human beings at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah,
much
yeah,
compliance that goes into it. So you're
correct.
definitely right. I think it's definitely something that is there to help us out instead of making us scared, because a lot of people are scared that it's going to take our jobs. But if we use it to our advantage, then it's there to just help us out, definitely. Okay, this
Correct, correct.
brings me to my next question. What are your thoughts on the recent introduction of corporate tax in the UAE, and how do you foresee it impacting businesses in the region?
Okay. So I think the first of all, when I came here, right, and this is my personal experience, right? So when I came here from India, specifically in this region, it's been now 8 9 years, right? This region was behind many other regions a lot, right? When it comes to finance
Yeah.
and and the compliances and the regulation, right? So I think the first thing we saw was VAT coming in, and you know a lot of us basically with that background, in India or Europe, here that talent didn't exist earlier, right? So, but then we could add a lot more value because we had a lot more complex understanding of direct,
Yeah.
indirect taxation back in those places. So it was that way easier. It helped the organizations then to start actually setting up a little bit more transparent or at least proper compliances in place. Otherwise, a lot of companies here it, didn't have basics in place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you are not part of the MNCs, then even the local companies, the uh, so that gap is now reducing a lot, right? Because in that kind of journey started. And then the government, I think, did a great job of creating that ESR implementation to kind of help understand the corporate taxation ecosystem. So that's kind of built on that. So now I think, given that the corporate taxation has come in, it's obviously bringing a lot more corporate governance in place, a lot more compliances in place. People are learning about these things, uh, which can are pretty much norm in many other countries,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, I mean, it's still uh, the concept of audit is very alien here,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you look at most other countries, there are internal audits, there are external audits, there are statutory audits, there are you know a lot of things around compliance and governance, which helps basically the company and the organization grow in a much better, secure manner, right? It
Yeah.
helps in better uh, outcomes when it comes to M&A, growth, investments. Otherwise, this region also had those challenges, right? Why would companies don't come and invest here? Because just simply you wouldn't trust any companies here and their information and their data and their finances. But now I think that things have started changing, right, with this corporate tax implementation. So of course, the government has their own agenda around it in terms of obviously increasing revenue, but I think from the company's perspective, in my mind, these are the fundamental things. Uh, and I think the tax rules are anyway very, I think they are evolving, right? So understanding
Yeah.
of these things will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, the rest of the world is way ahead in terms of a lot of things. So they just have to borrow and make sure that it is applied in the right way in this region as well. So that's already started happening very, very fast. And
Curve
yeah,
that will continue to grow.
that will continue to grow. That ecosystem will continue to grow. It will definitely, it's expanding the services companies around it. Then, right, the scope of the services company is expanding. So there's growth in the region as well, right? So that's good in a way. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's come to finance in the Middle East now. So, what do you think is going to be the future of finance in the Middle East in the next 5 to 10 years? What trends do you see emerging if you were to just take a brief look at it?
Okay. So okay, I think first of all, I think finance is very very broad. So I
Yeah.
would just kind of narrow it. So
Yeah.
finance, in your context, what you mean is more finance and accounting function, right, within the organizations,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So yeah, I think the finance and accounting function within the organizations, if you look at in this market, has been always a support function, right? Because there were two types, or rather three types of organizations here, in broadly, right? MNCs. Most MNCs had their group headquarters somewhere outside.
Yeah.
So majority of the finance functions were purely supporting, just a support function for managing day-to-day accounts and closing of the accounts of their local business here. Okay.
Yeah.
Majority of the talent resided outside, whether it was data, strategy, all those things, right?
Yeah.
Then we have local companies here who has all these functions which kind of grew, but then they didn't have the complexity that was kind of needed or required. So again, within those organizations, so finance and accounting function are again a very small support function
Yeah.
just to create. Yeah. So and then you had a long tail of a lot of uh, small
All businesses.
small businesses which again didn't have anything really in that sense.
Yeah.
uh, but I think the last 6 7 years a lot of things have changed. A lot more high growth companies have been established here, and they have local teams here. We have seen function based, kind of coming. Sorry, this particular function kind of growing in a more mature manner, right? As these companies started to recognize that they need to infuse, you know, again, same, whether it's technology, analytics at an early stage. I kind of talked to a lot of founders who and investors also. They have started realizing that their companies need to have finance function very early on in the journey, right? It's not like a support function anymore. It
Yeah.
drives strategy, it drives growth, it drives business, right? I have personally seen that companies don't investing in this function early on end up burning a lot of money or going in wrong directions, and then waking up much later in the
Yeah.
journey,
When
right?
it's too late.
So that kind of awareness has to have had started to happen, and a lot of talent that has come into the country as well, or from around the globe with experience, right? Which is helping. The one more trend which is there, I would say, with again large organizations, that the core support functions, which is accounting, whatever, that still probably will continue to be done at low cost locations like in India, Egypt, right? Because where
That.
you need more manpower and other things,
Yeah.
right? And which is more repetitive functions. So I've seen that also kind of actually start happening over the last 3 4 years, where a lot of outsourcing of finance has started to happen, right? So whereas okay, the core small team would be here, but then a lot of the outsourcing is happening, whether it is same thing will go on as well now for corporate taxation and all that, where you need you know that extra support, whether it is from compliance perspective, recording perspective, that probably all move to low cost locations and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So but from the region perspective, I think we would see a lot more adoption of technology, a lot more adoption of all the various tools, a lot more uh, I would say data driven or BI integration within the finance function, because I think every organization now, whether it's e-commerce or technology focused or non uh, kind of technology focused also, right? So everybody's adopting technology in some form or another, or in their way of operations or business. So in that situation, obviously uh, you need to kind of be ahead of the
Yeah.
curve in adoption of technology within the finance function as well, right?
Mentioning technology,
So
what
we
challenge?
call it digital transformation, essentially,
Yes.
broadly, right? So
Yes.
digital transformation of finance, that's the key word, will continue to happen now.
Definitely. So, but what do you think? What kind of challenges do you think the finance function is going to face given that AI is there now? Do you see any challenges that the function might face?
So I don't think there's going to be a challenge, right? Because AI is going to help only to do things much faster and quicker. Okay, so uh, in my mind, that will definitely help us reduce actually errors, you know, uh, time to do things, closing, improving, the overall accuracy, things like that, right? So it's just going to basically, in my mind, overall help the function. Um, I probably would say that maybe some of the support functions around it. So, for example, maybe I'm just thinking aloud right now. So, let's say I would have required certain consultants' help, certain in some areas.
Yeah.
Leave with maybe lawyers' help in certain areas, which I would probably not require now. I can rely on technology. I can rely on AI to do some of these things for
For
me
you.
much
Yes.
faster, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, some of these, yeah. In fact, I would say services players might face actually a little bit of. They have to also evolve and start adding value, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and they have to figure out how would they add value now in this context.
So I think everyone essentially has to just adapt and
Yeah.
make sure that we use it to help ourselves out. Thank you so much for taking out the time for doing this.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Then. Okay.
Thank you,
Look
Samir.
forward.
Talking to you. Have a
Yeah.
great weekend. Bye
You
bye.
too. Thank you. Bye bye.